Lynchburg City School Board to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We need to amend our agenda. We need a motion to add an addendum to item D2, the personnel report, to replace the attachment for item G1, Lynchburg City School Board policies, personnel, and to add item K, closed meeting, to receive a legal briefing. I have a motion to amend the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, thank you. Agenda is amended. First up is public comments. We do have comments this evening. First, I would like to call up Ms. Julie Doyle.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are you shaking your head? Good evening, everyone. My name is Julie Doyle, and I'm here tonight on behalf of a group of people who owe a great debt to a consummate professional by the name of Wendy Sullivan. I'm here tonight representing the current and former school board chairs who served during Wendy's time as clerk of the board. As much as Wendy would have wanted to quietly retire without bringing attention to herself, each of us as former leaders of this board believe it's important for Wendy to have at least a few well-deserved moments in the spotlight. I had the honor of serving on the Lynchburg City School Board from 2000 to 2009, and it is fair to say that I did not have a complete understanding of what I was getting into when my initial appointment was made. Back in the dark ages of 2000, before social media and texting, I did not learn the outcome of City Council's decision regarding school board appointments until my newspaper, a real newspaper, arrived the morning after the meeting. Once the news in advance confirmed for me that my appointment was official, I started to wonder what's next. It was only a few hours later when I received my first official contact from LCS Administration Office. The friendly voice on the other end of the line introduced herself and let me know that she was calling to see if I was available to speak with the superintendent. With that, Wendy patched me through to Dr. McCormick, the superintendent at the time, and my adventure on the Lynchburg City School Board began. Over the next 9 years, and especially the 5 years I served as board chair, Wendy was invaluable to me and my fellow board members. It is hard to imagine what those years of service would have been like without Wendy. She put up with all my questions, the requests, the occasional dramas, and she never complained about my tendency to be late to meetings. At least she never complained to me. From the most benign tasks like remembering which school board members liked which sandwiches, to the most critical, like ensuring the board properly responded to Freedom of Information requests and guiding the board chairs through challenging Robert's Rules parliamentary procedures, Wendy handled it all with unflappable competence. During my term as board chair, we went through a superintendent search, which, as a current board can attest, is one of the most important and challenging tasks that face any school board. Going through that process once was enough for me. But Wendy helped the board go through a superintendent search 2 more times in recent years. She handled it all with grace and integrity, but it is no wonder retirement started to sound pretty appealing. The chairs who served during Wendy's tenure have all sent their best wishes and thanks. Julia Sigler, Ellen Nygaard, Tracy Shaw, and Marianne Haas were not able to be here this evening. But as you can see, Lyle Schweitzer and Charlie White and Gina Dolan-Sewell are here with me. And I'm going to let any of you that would like to say a few words do so before we have a small memento we'd like to give to you.
Oh, Wendy, I just have to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. You have been a role model for decorum, integrity, loyalty, professionalism, and a model for patience. All the board members, I'd be curious if you've ever counted how many board members you have dealt with. But with this one, you had your own challenges. The board member who insisted on paper when everybody else was on their device. This one, who was notoriously at the last minute for the conflict of interest forms, and You reminded me, and I apologize for you needing to do so. The board member who required that you take off the tomato every time the sandwich came in, that was not me. But Dr. Massey knows who that board member was, though, from last time around. In any case, your expertise was, again, invaluable, and I have to thank you for making my service as board chair a really wonderful experience. So thank you, and I wish you well in your much well-deserved, excuse my language, retirement.
Well, all of us who sit at this table know we can't do this without good support staff. And not only Wendy, but the others that help us run the school division and set policy. But Wendy, you are invaluable in guiding me through the chairmanship and keeping things rolling. And that was when we didn't have the option of electronics. It was all paper and stacks of paper. But thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you've done to help us and all that you've done to help Lynchburg City Schools. Thank you.
Hi, Wendy. I was just reflecting on how difficult your job has been dealing with us and the combination of personalities and other school board members you've had over the years. But then I started thinking, when I was looking at Julie's list of former board chairs, I started thinking about the combination of personalities that you've dealt with as superintendent. And I think this is an all-inclusive list, but if you start with Jim McCormick, then Paul McKendrick, and Scott Brabrand, those are three very, very different personalities, and then a double, not one time, but a double dose of Larry Massey. And I think, let's just suffice it to say, I think your legacy is cemented in the Commonwealth in terms of notable board clerks. But, I think a lot about, not necessarily about my board experience, but I think a lot about the people who have contributed significantly to my children's educational experience. And we tend to think of those folks as the folks we see in the classroom, and we should. But one of the things that my board service allowed me to do was to see all the folks that our parents never see who provide a critical function to the delivery of the educational experience that our children enjoy. And I'll always be thankful for your contributions to that. So thank you, Wendy.
Mike.
Oh, Mike, did you want to add anything?
As the serving board chair and watching her walk out at the end of the month brings tears to my eyes for a couple of reasons. One, I'm going to miss her, and two, I'm really going to miss her. So,
Thank you. So, Wendy, all the former chairs and the current chair, Mike Nellis, compiled a list of words that we believe describe you. This list was turned into a word cloud, which we'd like to present to you as a reminder of your exceptional service to Lynchburg City Schools, and we hope it also reminds you of how greatly your board chairs respected you and how valuable you were to all of us. So this is the word cloud, and it's going to be bound and framed, so this is a draft copy, but you will see some themes that are very consistent in terms of honorable, integrity, professional, organized, unflappable, competent. The word sandwiches found its way in here for reasons that you will understand. But truly, I think this is a great representation of how we all think of you and how valuable you are to all of us and for to Lynchburg City Schools. So thank you for everything.
next up is Leno Haley. Hi.
Good evening. My name is Leno Haley, and I've been a teacher in the Commonwealth for 24 years. For 19 of those years, I have had the privilege to teach in the tradition of excellence that is Lynchburg City Schools. My colleagues, Teachers United with a Voice, have in previous weeks and months presented exhaustive data that clearly demonstrates the inequities in the current LCS pay scale, particularly for us veterans in the 23 to 30-year range, who are literally making less in real dollars than we would if we could take a time machine back to 2008. I'm here tonight to address some of the results of those data. To say that teaching has changed in the last 24 years is an understatement. Consider, to mention just a few major changes, SOL tests, computers, and cell phones. Teachers are charged with mastering new software, new instructional methods, new ways to use test results, not to mention heightened security concerns, all at warp speed in a constantly changing digital world. It is surely no surprise that nowadays teaching ranks among America's most stressful occupations. Our town has changed as well. In 2008, for instance, the Lynchburg poverty rate was about 17.5%. It is now closer to 25%. According to census data, Lynchburg now has the highest recorded poverty rate in its history. And all public servants know that more poverty means more needs among our most disadvantaged citizens. Long-term LCS teachers will tell you that they spend more and more time addressing a host of issues related to poverty that used to be the purview of social service agencies. Issues related to mental and physical health, to hunger, to family dysfunction, to incarceration, to homelessness. We do this job because we love kids. We do it because we love to teach. We do it because we want to serve the future of our community. We do it to make a difference, and we do it because, frankly, we are the professionals. But let's face it, this already challenging profession is only becoming more challenging, a fact borne out by the rising percentage of beginning teachers who leave the profession in the first 5 years. And no one knows these facts more than you do and that we do in this room tonight. And yet wage stagnation in teacher pay in LCS persists and persists and persists, despite numerous presentations and pleas on the parts of teachers. So the column of teacher responsibilities and requirements grows yearly, while the pay for those services literally, for many of us, declines in real dollars. As Ms. Yates has ably demonstrated in her many charts, we veteran teachers have not only not been keeping up, we have actively been falling financially behind. In my case, for instance, just having been paid according to the 2008 scale would add over $15,000 over the lifetime of my earnings, a not insignificant sum in the low-paid profession of teaching. For those teachers further up the scale, the loss is even greater. In fact, given the current pay scale, which disproportionately favors beginning teachers, any rational observer would infer that teachers like me, veterans with years of experience and contacts and ties through generations of students, are the least valued members of the LCS family. But just a small dip into the research on teacher effectiveness suggests that this is a short-sighted and self-sabotaging strategy. Seasoned and veteran teachers are consistently rated as more knowledgeable, productive, and effective compared to other age groups, and they frequently comprise the internal departmental leadership that many schools depend upon. What happens when the job itself requires more and more while the pay either stays static or declines? What do veteran teachers have to look forward to? In terms of pay, the answer from you, the LCS School Board, is nothing. No wonder then that some of us have decided and are deciding to leave the profession, as I have decided this year. And perhaps that's the goal, to discourage us so utterly that we just leave. But if that is not your priority, if that is not your goal, then adjusting these inequities should be your highest priority, if indeed LCS means what it says when it proclaims its tradition of excellence. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Next is Ms. Kate Staten.
Hi, I'm Kate Staten. I'm a sophomore at Glass. I'm here to talk about school safety. First, I'd like to thank you all for supporting students like me who want to participate in the national walkout inspired by the survivors turned teen activists from Parkland, Florida. They're our age. I completely understand about their reaction to say enough and to want to figure out how to make a major change rather than focusing on the shooting at their school. We are the generation that was born after the Columbine shooting. Our country has been at war since before we were born. We have been practicing lockdown drills since we were in preschool. We don't know what it is like to not worry about this. We remember the Virginia Tech shootings and local reporters being gunned down on the morning news. We know that we are not immune to this senseless violence in our small town. This year at EC Glass, we have had two scary threats. We have had the opportunity to see how our school responds in these high-stress situations. In the fall, school leadership and the police knew that there was a safety threat the night before, but chose not to share that information with our families and send us to school anyway. YouTube links of a hit list and rumors flew. We thought we were in real danger and no one would give us any information. The fire alarm went off. This might not seem like a big deal to some of y'all who didn't grow up at the same time as us, but we didn't know if this was real or if the person who created the hit list was the one who pulled it. Over 600 students left early that day, and we shouldn't have to live with that kind of fear. There is no follow-up with us or anything, and no one ever asked what they could do to make us feel safer. On Friday, another shooter threat was made. Again, no information about what was happening. My class went on lockdown. I sat crouched in the corner of my class and looked around. I saw things that might get us killed. The blinds were open. Our book bags were visible. The table wasn't against the door. We were on the second floor. We wouldn't be able to get out a window or anything. After the lockdown was lifted, we weren't given any information on what had happened. The news, we found out that a threat had been called in at least a full 30 minutes before we went on lockdown. This made me angry because I didn't feel like our safety was taken seriously. At the time, all the time, we see students and teachers that have left doors propped open or just left open doors for just about anyone. Why can't there be alarms on those doors to keep that from happening? Can't they use the hall cameras to see who does that and discipline them? There's no way of identifying who belongs in our building and who doesn't. Why don't students have ID badges like the teachers do to scan in? Shouldn't lockdown procedures start the minute we know about a threat, and shouldn't they be the same for every classroom? Shouldn't teachers on the second floor have ladders so that we could get out of our classroom? It is hard to believe Lynchburg City Schools is doing everything possible to keep us safe when things like this are overlooked. They tell us to say something when we see something. We do that. We've been doing that. We are told that we are overreacting and whatever we report isn't serious. I even went to the principal's cabinet meeting at my school to talk about my safety concern. It was cut off mid-sentence with, "I don't want to hear it." We are tired of that reaction, and we are tired of not having our safety taken seriously. As I said in the beginning, I appreciate the opportunity to participate in the walkout, but I do not appreciate, even though I have asked to be included, I can't plan the walkout because I'm not on the SCA. I don't even know who the SCA representatives are or how to contact them. Our principal has sent us 2 emails saying our school's message of focus regarding the walkout will be one of respect, support, and empathy and encouragement for Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. While I appreciate the message, I do not believe that is what the students in Parkland want us to say. And I don't like that our principal is trying to put those words in our mouths. When I walk out, it will be to say enough. I'm tired of living in fear that the school is not safe. I want more safety measures taken. I want better and faster communication. I want to know about threats, and I want administration and guidance counselors to listen to us and to take us seriously when we report things. Thanks for allowing me to speak tonight.
Next is Mr. Carl Lewis.
Good evening to all of you, and let me start by saying once again thank you so much for your service to the students and staff of Lynchburg City School as well as the greater Lynchburg community. My name is Carl Luce and I am president of the Lynchburg Education Association, and I have no doubt that you know exactly why I'm here tonight to speak with you. It's been 18 months since I first stood in front of you as the face and voice of this association, and I'm sad to say little has changed over the course of those 18 months. In September of 2016, I addressed the issue that 40% of the teachers leaving the division were veterans with 5 or more years of experience. Little has changed. In November of that same year, I spoke to you about how Lynchburg ranked 103rd out of 132 school divisions in pay for teachers with 5 to 10 years of experience, and how support personnel needed 11 years of experience to earn above a poverty level wage. Little has changed. In August of last year, I talked about where we rank against the state and national averages, which is far behind on both accounts, as the average teacher salary here is about $7,000 behind the state average and $15,000 behind the national average. Little has changed. In January, I presented the board with statistics of achievement compared to other school divisions with a similar socioeconomic makeup to LCS, and how, while LCS was a leader of all 15 of these divisions in academic achievement, we languished at the bottom in pay comparison. Little has changed. In West Virginia today, after 2 weeks of striking by employees, the state finally did what was right and raised employee pay by 5%. Many employees in Lynchburg looked at the average pay of an employee in West Virginia and realized they were well below that pay, not above it. I would hate to think that a revolution like that would need to take place here for us to do the right thing. Here in Virginia, the House of Delegates passed a budget that would help fund the STEP plan that we need so desperately. We need each of you to contact your state senator and ask them to do the same. City Council meets again next week, and I plan on continuing to plead our case with them. We need you to work on our behalf to guaranteed funding for our STEP increases. School employees are often left in no man's land. The locality says the state and federal governments need to do more, while the state and federal governments try to push it off on the locality. In the end, it's only the employees and the families of the employees who pay the price. In reality, all three need to do better to support their schools. A veteran teacher I was contacted by today would have made an extra $56,000 over the last 8 years had the freeze not taken place. A teacher with my experience level when this step freeze went into effect earned $8,000 more a year 10 years ago than I earn right now. If you think our expenses have decreased over the last 10 years, you are sadly mistaken. And we are not the exception, we are the rule. Employees all over this division are suffering, not struggling, they're suffering. And whatever excuses there may be with regards to finances or politics, we are your responsibility. Platitudes are nice, but they don't feed my kids or pay my bills. As the saying goes, put your money where your mouth is. Over the next few weeks, we're going to find out what this board's and this division's and this city's priorities are. There's a sense of hopelessness permeating your division right now. A STEP plan can restore hope. It can restore faith. In August, I told this board, to put it bluntly, anything short of a STEP plan that recognizes years of service for all employees would be a failure of this division. Little has changed. Thank you.
Brings us to agenda item B1, special presentations, efforts to improve student achievement, EC Glass High School and Heritage High School. Dr. McLean?
Yes, good evening. As the board's aware, we've been having principals at our schools across the division share over the last few months updates on their efforts to improve achievement and other indicators. And so tonight is Dr. Garrett and Mr. Beebe to share what the high schools are doing.
Good morning, school board. Not good morning, good evening. It's been a long day. Dr. Garrett and I wanted to share some data with you as it relates to student achievement, as it relates to math data, remediation efforts for math data, and overall achievement. Also with graduation core index, how that's calculated, and the steps that are taken to ensure that seniors get the proper notification to ensure that they are on track for graduation. So one thing we worked towards doing this year was to do a 3-year analysis of our math data by the SOL strands and performance by detail. And what you see is a 3-year breakdown of our data. Of course, Glass is in blue, Heritage is in orange. And you see the different categories for 2015, 2016, 2017. You'll see that in 2015, our data was lower than it was in 2016. And Glass had a bounce back year in 2017. Our scores dipped a little bit in 2017 in Algebra 1. Our pass rates overall, you see there at the bottom, 38% for glass, 38% for heritage, 28% for glass. Then a significant increase for both high schools, and then we dropped down a little bit in 2017. Glass dropped down a little bit, but it didn't impact their ability to be accredited in math. We did the same thing for Algebra 2 for 2015, 2016, 2017. Again, you see the categories that we struggled mostly with our students as it relates to the SOL strands. And then you see the pass rates for 2015, then 2016, big increase for both schools, and then another big increase for glass in 2017, a slight decrease for us in 2017, but Algebra 2 tends to be our strongest performing math SOL. We did the same thing for geometry, again, a 3-year analysis in different SOL strands and show that our weakest performing areas were these strands that are listed here on this chart. Again, you see the pass rates overall for both high schools. Slight increase from 2015 to 2016, and we had a significant decrease in 2017. Glass had an increase in 2017. And so this data analysis really allowed us to take a deeper dive to see what we needed to do from a school improvement standpoint, from a school improvement team, what our teachers need to look at to improve our SOL scores, to prepare our students more efficiently and better for this year, because the goal, of course, is to be accredited, both high schools to be accredited this school year. Okay. Dr. Garrett, you want to talk about the remediation?
So if you would, looking at that data, think about that there are layers of disaggregation that takes place. So as you continue to break down those layers and dig deeper into the SOLs, really unpacking it, teachers and staff are looking at ways to narrow it all the way down to maybe specific questions, and then they look at lesson plans and PAR guides as they start developing the remediation plans. So as you see on the overhead, that the remediation plans, these are some of the ones that we have both used and put into place for this year, taking that data analysis and really breaking it down, looking at our benchmark data for both fall semester, and we just completed our spring semester benchmark testing, using the PAR guide to assist in instructional pacing. We're seeing that teachers that are teaching their content are really on pace together. They're also using PLCs within the department, such as the math department, to have conversations also with that common planning to help drive them to make sure that they're implementing strategies and doing like types of instruction. Also, there are the cohort classes, and then one of the things that we've done this year that we've seen some benefits in our fall was the Power Up, which was a 1-hour review prior to our students taking the SOL test. Students that participated in that in the fall spoke very highly of it, and they felt that it was very beneficial, maybe giving them that extra boost going into the SOL test. Also is the EOS grant, as we're able to provide after-school tutoring activities for our students. Some additional remediation actions that have been put into place: peer tutoring with National Honor Society students, project graduation. One of the things that we saw success in this year was an SOL remediation class, and the example listed was one by Rebecca Cyrus, and she had great results with that, with 100% pass rate for the 8 students that were in that class. Also, the spiraling review and warm-ups. This is something that's been part of our conversations with teachers, not only in math, but with the other content area classes, is how can they spiral the different data points that they are able to identify throughout the entire year so that students are becoming more familiar with those areas that have been identified as areas that they've struggled in. You can also see a few of the additional items with Saturday sessions coming up and using SOL predictors to help students. So graduation. One of the things that we're doing as we go forward, our next slide, you'll see kind of a GCI model for our students, and Mr. Beatty will talk a little more in detail about that sheet. But we have what is called cohort meetings, and we look at each and every senior and all their needs to identify and highlight what is needed to help them to be successful and to graduate. This happened at Glass over a couple of evenings and afternoons. We incorporated, as you can see, a list of faculty members and staff members, all for the purpose of communicating and looking for ways how we can reach the students who need it most.
So what you see here is a sample GCI report from the VDOE website, and please don't be alarmed by the names there. We use fictitious names, and of course, if you're Star Wars fans, you realize that they are names from Star Wars. So just a little humor here for our presentation. But the way that the GCI breaks down is if you are a dropout, you receive a 0 on the GCI calculation. If you are a graduate, whether you are advanced, the way you receive an advanced diploma or standard diploma, you receive 100 points towards the index. If you get a certificate of completion, which means that you have earned all of your high school credits, but you have not earned enough local verified credits by not passing enough SOLs, you receive 25 points in your graduation cohort index. If you're still enrolled after 4 years and you're a fifth-year senior, you get 70 points towards your GCI. And oftentimes, if the student does eventually graduate, you do get credit. That 70 does turn to 100. Students that earn a GED receive 75 towards the GCI index. And you look at every student on the GCI cohort index, and it's important to have everyone involved. It's important to have the registrar involved to be able to look at students who may have transferred out of the school division to make sure that they don't count against you. It's important to have the attendance coordinator there so that he can look at truancy reports and attendance to make sure that we have some strategies in place for the students who may be truant. And then, of course, the guidance counselors are there to ensure that the students are on track to graduate. This next sample that you see here is a letter that goes out to all of our seniors right around January. It's really a checklist of things to ensure that students are on track for graduation. Their diploma type, the courses that they need in order to ensure they graduate, the verified credits that they need to achieve, and then what course are they on? Are they going to college? Are they going to the workforce, the military, or a technical program? And so this letter goes out in January, and then this is a credit check sheet that our counselors use just to keep tabs on all of our students as far as credits, their classes, verified credits, diploma type, to ensure that the students understand where they are as far as graduation. Our counselors do an outstanding job of, at both schools, meeting with students, making sure that they're on track to graduate. Again, the letters go out to parents to ensure that they are kept in the loop. The counselors meet with the students, make sure that they are on track. And then finally, in the event that a student is in danger of not graduating, a letter goes out to communicate to parents to ensure that they understand that if their child doesn't achieve a certain number of verified credits or a certain number of credits, that they will be in danger of not graduating. So all that factors very strongly into our GCI and being able to keep up with students in the cohort to ensure that we achieve accreditation that way. You have to have a minimum of 85 points to be accredited on the GCI, and so that's something that we work very hard towards with collaboration with teachers, counselors, attendance coordinator, and registrar. So Dr. Garrett, do you have anything else? That concludes our presentation. We'll entertain any questions you may have.
Board member questions or comments? Dr. Coleman?
Thank you for your presentation tonight. As a board member, Dr. Garrett or Dr. Can you tell me what should be my takeaway from what you just shared to us?
Yes, sir. The main takeaway that I see is that teachers are using existing data to help drive instruction. They're looking at that data and looking at the PAR guides and using that to make plans at how to adjust instruction to provide our students with the tools needed to be successful.
Okay. And lastly, as a board member, what can we do to help you so that we literally see the student achievement by way of policy or other levels of support? What can we do? Because as you heard from all of the glowing public comments, this board is very interested in doing what we need to do. And so I appreciate the report. But in terms of actually improving student achievement, is any suggestions that you have, say to me as an individual board member, that can help you?
I'll speak, and Dr. Garrett can certainly speak as well. Our teachers work very hard. We really can't ask any more of our teachers. They're dedicated. Some teachers are there to after hours remediating students. There's teachers working during enrichment. So I really can't ask any more of our teachers. They're dedicated. They're working hard. I think the staffing needs of the schools being met on a yearly basis is very, very important. If there's one thing that we could ask of the board, I know that we're facing tough times as it relates to budget and staffing, but in the areas of math, science, English, social studies, the core areas that attribute to accreditation, I think it's important that those areas are staffed properly at all schools to ensure that that students are having the opportunity to have the opportunities to work hard in the classroom and receive the instruction that they need from teachers, that they're not in classrooms of 30 plus students where they can't get individual help. Whatever the board can do from a staffing standpoint would be greatly appreciated.
Thank both of you.
Okay. Ms. Carter?
I heard during the presentation that there was a spring benchmark. Have you all seen those results?
We actually just
we are in
completed.
that window now.
Right.
Oh, so you're just doing
Yes, ma'am. We haven't received data yet.
And one thing that we do at both schools, we factor the fall and benchmark assessments into sort of we call it a SOL type of predictor, to where we can determine before the SOL start. Like last year, I knew that we were going to have a hard time making accreditation because the benchmark data showed that we were low in some areas. We had some unfortunately, we had some teacher turnover in math mid-year that caused some challenges. But that, along with attendance, along with the grades, we factor all of those in, and we're able to get it pretty close to determine where we will be from accreditation standpoint once before the SOLs actually begin.
In the SOL predictor form, looking at the fall data, teachers then were starting to work to develop plans on students that, based on that data, whether they fell into a range of, maybe or below, and trying to really work on strategies to get them to the next, I guess, level, so to speak, within the data range. So.
one more.
Yeah, they're coded red if they're in danger, yellow if they're, could pass or not pass, and then green if, for sure that the student will pass.
Ms. Carter, another one?
And the other one, is remediation ongoing?
Yes, ma'am. It takes place throughout the year. For our term grads, like your seniors that need the verified credits, they receive remediation during enrichment, I think Glass has actual classes that they use for SOL remediation. So both schools do remediation for term grads, and then we do remediation right before the SOL, both in class and during enrichment and after school.
And the data, you said that for Algebra 1, the Algebra 2 people, the students do better. Are these the same students from Algebra 1 that were struggling, and then now Algebra 2, they are getting it?
In some instances, yes. Some instances, no.
We have students that take Algebra 1 in middle school, so they're not factored in as part of our Algebra 1 data.
Okay.
So the data is not, I would say, not as true as maybe an upper level math data, because then all of the students or more students are taking it. That makes sense.
Right. And then you've got pedal students that take Algebra 1 first semester and then Algebra 2 second semester, so all that factors in. So the data's are all over the place in some instances.
Dr. Sena?
I apologize for the after-school and Saturday sessions. Are there barriers that students face that would keep them from taking advantage of those offerings, and is there anything we can do about them?
As far as our Saturday program, from my understanding, we are looking to use grant money to help with transportation. That's been the main topic of conversation of how we can provide that. So,
yeah, we've tried some Saturday remediation in the past, and we've had average turnout, to say. That's the reason why we focus a lot of our remediation efforts during the school day, because of transportation being an issue.
Right.
It's just the reason why we use enrichment, and we use that time, that 45-minute block after third period, to try to get as much remediation for our students as possible.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brings us next to the finance report. Mr. Beckles.
Good evening. My financial report for the 7 months ended January 2018 will comprise of 3 components. 1, we'll review the financial statements. 2, I will update you on when our budget presentation is due at the city. And then 3, I'll give an update on the installation of the new financial software. So the first one is the financial statements. From a revenue perspective, at this point, no change. You will note that I've included in your revenue package a reforecast of revenue, and you'll be getting to get that. You've got it in from January, and from each month until June, I will update you on where we are as far as the revised revenue is concerned. As you know, the state is going through its budget process now. Preliminary, I don't expect any significant change in our original budget amount that we're going to get. So I don't see any significant change there. As you know, they revised the sales tax estimate. So if that revision in any which way affects us, again, you would see that, and I will point that out as we go along through the coming months. So from a revenue perspective, at this point, we're up. I revised it. We're $80,000 up over our original budget. At this point, it's a small amount. I just hope that grows as we go along the months. But from the revenue perspective, no significant items I need to bring to your attention on that. If you would look at your expenditure reports, you're going to see some large negative numbers in the various functional areas under personnel. As you know, the revised insurance amounts from the employees kicked in January. So you're going to see some of these have negatives and some have non-negative numbers. What we have to go back in now and reallocate that additional money to its proper functional area. But we would not have known what exactly that was until it actually happened. So I will adjust that in February, and then you shouldn't see those significant differences in those accounts. Now, if you remember in last month's report, there was some negative in some of the payroll accounts, small amount existing, that I will fix those or adjust those at the end. I don't want to go each month adjusting up and down. But a significant part of the negatives you see now in January is the result of the insurance payments coming from the employees, which doesn't match the budget at this point. So we'll reallocate that, and then you should not see those significant variants going forward. Other than that, from an expense side of it, no major issues to bring to your attention. We are still watching medical claims. At this point, it's still bouncing around. But at this point, I have no recommendation as to what to do with it until we get further on down the road. If you have any questions, I'll answer those now on the financial statements. No questions. And the second item is Dr. Massey will be presenting the school's budget presentation to City Council on March the 20th at 4 p.m. And then Ben Copeland will do the capital budget on April the 10th at 4 p.m. As far as our new financial system is concerned, ALIO, the financial module is in and functioning. We are currently installing the payroll, HR, and benefits modules. So they are currently being installed. I would like to say thank you to the payroll department, personnel department, the benefits department, and the IT department, because they're working, I wouldn't say overtime, but they're working extremely hard to do the setup and installation during the workday at the same time they're keeping up their regular work. So they're stretching some long nights. So I want to say thank you to those 4 departments and the staff in them for the job that they're doing in installing the financial system. So far, it's functioning as we can expect it. It's going to be a great system when we finish with it and make all of our lives a whole lot easier. Right now, there are a lot of growing pains and groans from some of our staff, but I do appreciate the extra work and time that they're putting in doing those installations. Other than that, that's the end of my financial report.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Move next to the consent agenda. Consists of the school board meeting minutes from the February 1st Student Discipline Committee meeting, February 1st Personnel Committee meeting, February 6th regular meeting, February 8th Student Discipline Committee meeting, February 13th Student Discipline Committee meeting, February 19th Student Discipline Committee meeting, February 22nd closed meeting, and the February 27th Student Discipline Committee meeting, as well as the amended personnel report. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Thank you. Move now to student representative comments. We have a new student representative from Heritage, Ms. Katikwa Burns. Are you substituting, or is this permanent?
Yes, sir. Substituting.
Okay, very good.
Hello, my name is Katikwa Burns. I'm from Heritage High School, and I'm a senior ready just to graduate already. Senior year has been senior year. Okay, within Heritage High School, our Pioneer Theater with their Les Mis was miraculous. Like, it was amazing. So Les Mis is based on classical novel by Victor Hugo and the classic Broadway stage show of the name Les Miserables in the story of Jean Valjean. He was a prisoner who broke payroll, and the police inspector, Javert, tried to hunt him down during the breaking of the payroll. And so, on the given dates, the 16th, 17th, 18th, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of the month of February, this play was pure success and a top hit for the Pioneer Theater. Each night, people from all around came out and supported our pioneers, in which they turned out with outstanding numbers, in which they almost sold out on one of their own plays, but they didn't quite meet so. But each night, it was packed tremendously. This event was outstanding that was brought to Heritage, and while conducting this event, Heritage Theater held a fundraiser that they'll be able to participate in the Southeastern Theater Conference, and they surpassed their goals. So they needed to meet a certain requirement on how much money they were so that they can get into the conference, because they had like a conference earlier on in the year and they did great. They came in first place, which placed them into this predicament. And so they're going to go to Mobile, Alabama to compete and represent Heritage as the #1 school in Virginia for acting. And then the Pioneer Theater director, Larry Hart, he wins the Lynchburg Living Top Teacher Award for his achievements in establishing a powerful program at Heritage High School. The HHS Love Week was a week of where we showed nothing but gratitude and love towards those that we've lost during over the school year. The healing time that we've been acting upon around Heritage it's been a time this year for us for the losing of our students. But during the week of February 12th through the 16th, we honored the passing of our 3 beloved students, Ryan Wood, Jordan Keys, and Marissa Bichelle, at Heritage, in which we hosted the Love Week, which promoted acts of kindness through positive notes, messages, and actions. So on each day we had a specific theme that we had, as in Monday we had Crazy Socks Day, Tuesday we had your favorite team, your favorite sports team. Wednesday we had Wear Red for Love, because at the time it was Valentine's Day. And then Thursday and Friday they had the culinary arts during Jordan Keys, and it was kind of like a fundraiser that they held at the culinary arts class. They were in the library, and they cooked up some like little snacks and things that people could come down, and they were delicious. They were amazing. And during this Love Week, we students made thank you cards for the cafeteria staffs, as well as teachers left notes of encouragement on students' lockers. So one morning we came into school, and like the day before, there was absolutely nothing on the lockers. It was empty. We come back into school the next morning, and there's nothing but hearts, positive, motivational, encouragement words written all over the locker. My locker had on my locker, I had 3 things. It said, "Stay positive, think great of yourself, and you're beautiful." And I just felt like it was really nice. And as you see down here, this was with the hearts on the wall. That's on our Spanish hallway. And during this is where it says, "For every act of kindness," the students will put their words on the wall, and students will walk around on this the Spanish hall, and they'll see that. And then the students use the youuplift.com to anonymously post positive messages for each other. So in first period, it's put in each of the teachers' classrooms, and the classrooms gave it to us as an assignment that morning, so that we can just post that on the class, and then people that's on it will see like the positive words, like "You're beautiful," "I like your shirt," "I like your shoes." Just people always had positive things on that website during that morning. And then as we came into school that morning, we would like to thank Dr. Coleman, Ms. Snyder, and Ms. Morrison for helping us out when you welcomed us into the building that morning. And then it's field trip time. Okay, so today our dual enrollment college biology and advanced placement biology class took a field trip to the pathology lab in Central's Hospital today. This semester, students are studying the anatomy of the body, and they were given the chance to hold a brain, a colon, a lung, and a heart. And then they even saw a detachment of a leg from a human's corpse. It was pretty graphic, but it was amazing. They came back to school like 6th period, and it was just unbelievable. And they said that the brain, like, you know how people say that you got a big head, you're smart, so you think that your head is like, your brain is big. They said that the brain is like probably like this small, but it has so much information in it, as well as they got to see a cancer lung and like a smoker's lung, and the difference between each, and see like how dark a lung of a cancer and a smoker's can be if you did that, or if you were like obtaining any type of drug, and from the difference from like a healthy lung. And so it was really nice. And then also the biology class. This is the college dual enrollment. The student achievement. HHS biology students competed in the school science fair, and several judges were impressed with the quality of their projects. So we would like to congratulate these following students. First place was Abigail Poindexter, shining light on emergencies. Second place was Deshae Taylor. She did bacteria meats usage, I believe that's what it says. And then third place was Maribeth Hammer-Smith when she said battling bacteria. And so this was a science fair competition. And so you had critics come in that day, and they judged each of their projects, and they were the top 3. And so in those little jars, they got Hershey Kisses, and that I know some of them they just demolished that. It was really nice. And then here's some student achievements. On February 24th, Heritage and EC Glass Gear Up students took a campus tour of the University of Richmond and attended the Richmond Spiders basketball game against St. Joseph University. And they really enjoyed that. Now this day, February 7th, 2018 was a very big day in Heritage. This was a day that so many, like the football players, the students, our peers, that like the whole beginning, like from when football season ended until this day, this was a day that was very memorable in Heritage. The signing day was held in our forum, and when I say I've never seen that forum filled up so much, I did not know that they even had a carrying capacity of so many people. As you can see, Javon Reed right here, he is going to go to Glenville State. Kevin Moss and Keontae Rose, they're going to go to Concord University. Carrington Anderson right here on the side is going to Glenville State. Eric Wyatt as well is going to Glenville State. Colin Brooker is going to go to Randolph-Macon, and Elijah Davis will go to Old Dominion University. And our indoor track team recently had their state championship, and they did well and surpassed and was able to win. Today, Leland Melvin came to Heritage for our 10th graders for the Gear Up. So the National Astronaut, Leland Melvin, met the sophomores of the Gear Up program today and signed copies of his autobiography, Chasing Space. And like so many individuals like in the school were like, they wanted to be in there as well, but it was only for the 10th graders, and they were just always asking like, how come we couldn't be in there, but it's just for the 10th graders because of their grade. And then we have our Overcoming Adversity with Diversity Black History Month. The Overcome Adversity with Diversity Club created a video of African American students and teachers at Heritage High School as they share why they were proud to be black in honor of Black History Month.
I can never be who you want me to be, but I'll be black. I'll be beautiful. I'll be bold. I'll be brilliant, and I'll be great.
We are not ghetto, and we're not thugs.
We are inventors. We are innovators, and we are leaders.
We have a heritage of love, brotherhood, and achievement.
I'm proud to be black because it's a part of my people, my friends, my family, my neighborhood, and everything about me.
I'm proud to be black because it's an honor to see what we have achieved as a people and the successes that we continue to strive for.
I'm proud to be black because my melanin is my beauty. I am proud to be black because we are different and we are strong.
I'm proud to be black because as a youth, my parents, who are my heroes, instilled that in me to be proud of my culture and my heritage.
Because it's a part of who I am, it's the culture I was born into, and it's the essence of my national beauty.
Because we have made it so far in a country that was built off of our suffering.
I'm proud to be black because despite being born and raised in the country where people that look like me are going down in the streets every day and continue to strive for equality and fight for a better
This video here was very, very, very important to many of our peers in the school. We had many teachers come up to us and spoke on it and about how they it made them emotional that morning. They gave it. I think it was Monday morning when we released it, and our Overcoming Diversity has been a big club within Heritage that has made such a difference, and it also made people feel more comfortable about being themselves, not feeling judged about whether ethnics or their religion or what they believed in. And so if you have any more questions or you'd like to find out more information about Overcome Diversity, you can go to our Facebook page where it says Overcome Adversity with Diversity, and you can share and like our Facebook page as well as our video. And then we would like to thank you for everything you do, the true pioneers.
Thank you. Ms. Brauskas, what's happening at EC Glass?
A good amount of things. So this past weekend on Saturday, we had a tremendous basketball game. On Saturday, Lynchburg College hosted the VHSL basketball state quarterfinals, so us Glass students didn't have to travel very far, thankfully. The game was originally scheduled for Friday, but due to the horrible winds and weather, Loudoun Valley was out of school and could not participate in the game, so it was postponed to Saturday. And it was a very tough, hard-fought match. The final score of the game was 69-49 to 47 in Loudoun Valley's favor, which is very unfortunate, but we are very happy to see them go further. And the boys varsity basketball team at EC Glass excelled in their record this year, going 21-6, and they also won the Region 40 championship this year. So we were very excited about that. And these are some of the highlights that we had throughout our year. I personally got to wear one of those shirts in the top right corner today, the No Excuses, No Regrets. They handed them out to students at the game. So it's pretty cool to feel a part of the team in that sense. Our support for Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. This past Thursday, EC Glass students and faculty got to wear maroon and gray to support Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, and those are just a few of our faculty and students being able to participate in something that affects our nation. SOL season is coming upon us, and unfortunately, some 12th graders, such as I, don't have to participate in SOL, so I'm very thankful. But throughout EC Glass, we have been preparing and reviewing for our SOL tests. So testing for 10th graders starts in 2 weeks, March 19th through the 23rd, and SOL testing will continue after spring break for 9th and 11th graders as well. So for prom, this is a big topic that us students have been talking about, and the junior committee is starting to follow through with. Our annual prom will be held on April 21st this year, and the Academy of Fine Arts is where our prom has been in the past, and they'll also be hosting us again this year with the theme being Hollywood, which will have a red carpet and all that fun stuff. And our after prom, this is the first ever, it'll be held at Amazement Square with a casino night theme with all sorts of prizes and activities that we're excited to take part in. And students who attend the event that do not go to EC Glass must be considered by administration before receiving their ticket to the prom. So there's a application process if a EC Glass student is taking someone else who does not go to the school, and all that good stuff. And something for us seniors this week and upcoming weeks, as we've been accepted into our universities, the school counseling department has given us the opportunity for students to be acknowledged for our achievements. So these are just a few of the students who are throughout the guidance department throughout the day. And you can't really tell, but they have the universities and little logos of the schools that they'll be attending or plan to attend. And they can fill out these pennants throughout the day of where they've been accepted and where they'll be ending up. So that's pretty cool to see. And a big honor that we've had throughout EC Glass in this past week, the National Technical Honor Society inducted 22 career and technical students throughout Glass in our EC Glass chapter of the National Technical Honor Society on Friday, March 2nd. And I thought this was important to acknowledge. A National Technical Honor Society student must attain these 8 attributes. So knowledge, skill, scholarship, honesty, responsibility, service, leadership, and citizenship are 8 characteristics as to what these 22 students attain. And we were really proud to have such recognition and have our students demonstrate this throughout our school. So these were the 22 students that were honored and were inducted into the National Technical Honor Society. And our orchestra, congrats to them. They were awarded a superior rating in straight ones at their state assessment on February 28th. So that's a great achievement for them. And this was something I had to quickly add in. I forgot about signing day. So on February 14th, my good friend Amanda Wigboli committed and signed with William & Mary for their soccer program, which is a D1 school. She's excelling so much, and we're very proud of her and what she's done. And Coach McClure got to speak before her signing and said and noticed that it was on the Day of Love. So it's a great way to celebrate her and how she has such love and passion for her sport that she got to celebrate that. So we wish her the best of luck at William & Mary. And fourth quarter, here we come. We're really excited to finish out the year and ready to move on to summer. So,
Very good. Thank you.
of course, it's an honor.
Move now to school board committee reports. Mr. Powley?
The Finance Committee, we met in February. We talked about some of the rising healthcare costs and the medical claims. Mr. Beckles made recommendations for best practices on how to remedy this expense. We also talked about the employee hotline, which we were looking to implement soon. Essentially, it's intended to encourage and enable all officers, employees, volunteers, and others to report serious concerns internally so that Lynchburg City School Board can address and correct inappropriate conduct and or actions. It's the responsibility of all board members, officers, employees, and volunteers to report any actions or suspected actions within LCS that are illegal, unethical, or violate any adopted policy of the Lynchburg City School Board. And those are the two things that we went over during this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Other committee reports? Okay, if not, we'll move on to unfinished business. First is G1 Lynchburg City School Board policies for personnel and regulations. Mr. Copeland?
Good evening, everyone. Back on January 16th, we presented the personnel policy packet related to policies specific to finance crossovers and things related to leave. At that time, I reported to you that many of the leave-related policies were out for legal review. That legal review has been completed, and they're in your agenda packet tonight. And then we have edited two policies, GAZ and GAAZ, just clarifying some wording between professional personnel, classified support personnel, and administrative personnel. So we'll gladly answer any questions you have at this point. This policy packet with these new policies is up for action tonight.
Can you help me with the differentiation between the accumulation of time for sick time versus vacation time? That apparently sick time, there's no maximum accumulation, but with vacation time, can that carry 36 days? Just sort of the reasoning behind that, I just wasn't.
Could you tell me the page that you're looking at, Dr. Brennan?
Page 18 and 29. 18 related to sick time. It's just a question that apparently on sick time, that may accumulate with no maximum accumulation, whereas with vacation time, you can only carry over 36 days.
As we go through discussing all of these things, sick time, you earn your days at the beginning of the calendar year, and due to unpredicted illnesses, you might not use any of that time this year or next year, but something catastrophic might happen and you might need 45 days, or you might need to go out on family medical leave for an extended period at some point in the future, so those days are allowed to build up. There's also no cash value to those days.
I see.
Whereas with the vacation days, there is a buyout component to that and a cash value. So we capped those at 36. Only the most senior employees in the organization earn up to 2 days a month. so they could earn a maximum of 24 over a given year. And you can build up to 36, but as of June the 30th, and everybody that's over 36 resets back to 36, so that we don't incur a significant debt.
Right.
If somebody doesn't take a lot of vacation and then they decide to retire, and they can, and vacation days are allowed to continue to accumulate, their daily rate is what you're paying them for when they decide to retire.
Right.
So it is a way to control the number of days that people can build and not have to impact your financial state at some point in the future.
Which makes a lot of sense, that I didn't understand that there was no payback for the sick time. It's just for vacation time. Great. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Other questions or comments? This is up for action. I think there have been some changes. So, is there a motion to approve the personnel policies?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second? Is there any additional discussion? Comments? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay.
Thank you.
We move next to superintendent's contract. Dr. Edwards was able to change her release date from her present school division to allow her to start April 1st, 2018 for as Lynchburg City Superintendent. We do need to amend her contract because the original contract has her starting May 1st. So I guess I am asking for authorization to enter into a revised contract with the revised start date of April 1st. So pretty straightforward. That's the only thing we're doing is changing the start date. Dr. Brennan.
And I would certainly move to do that. Just to clarify, on the contract, it states that under the preamble, it states that the period commencing would be April 1st, 2018, ending June 31st, but then under terms of employment, it's still saying May the 1st, 2018, ending June the 3rd.
Well, that's why I was asking that, that you authorize the chair to enter in, to sign it. We'll fix that.
Okay, perfect. Good. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Carter? Yes?
For motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. It brings us to H1 new business, policy JHCD, administering medicines to students and regulation, the associated regulation, this administration of medication. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Maybe Dr. Brennan can help, but thank you. Mr. Copeland?
I'll pronounce it Narcan because that's easier for my brain to process. Tonight we bring to you for information replacement of two policies. We have a current policy 7-53 dealing with medication for students, and then a regulation 7-53 dealing with administration of the medication. In the process of reviewing and bringing forward the Narcan policy, we decided to go ahead and bring forth replacements for those two 7-53 policies and bring you JHCD, which has been provided. It actually starts on page 43, and then JHCD-RZ, which starts on page 46 of your board packet. I'll talk specifically to JHCD-RZ, which deals with Narcan. I think everybody in this room is aware of the opioid crisis as it's been talked about around the nation and the state. Our first responders and our medical personnel have had the availability of this opioid inhibitor for some time. The state legislature has, I think within the past year, has said we can start using it in schools. Our folks have worked on policies to get these into schools, to get Narcan into schools. They've already conducted the training. We've provided fact sheets on what the drug's about. We've also provided some questions and answers relative to other things. From the administration's perspective, we think this is a great thing to do, to have available in our schools. Might not necessarily be for a student, it might be for somebody in the public, but I think that the more places that this drug is available, the better off we're going to be as a society as a whole. The way that I understand it, and we've got some medical experts here if we need them, but if you suspect that somebody is in the midst of an opioid overdose, you can give this and it stops the effects from impacting them. If they're not in the midst of an opioid overdose, it doesn't hurt them in any way. So that's why we're bringing it forward. I'll try to answer any questions you've got, and then we've got our other folks here to help.
Questions or comments? Dr. Brennan?
If I could just comment that as far as my physician background, I contribute to this some just to reinforce what Mr. Copeland has said. I think this is hopefully something we would never need to use in the school system, but clearly is a drug that is felt to be important for it to be university available to reverse opioid overdoses. And as Mr. Copeland has said, it really is, it's very effective in a situation of an overdose, and it does not have any adverse effects. If it's not an overdose, it doesn't have any adverse effects, period. It just specifically works for this. And looking up just some things in general, it really does seem to be a national effort to try to make it available. The training is fairly simple, it's very specific, and I'm sure that the staff will follow that, will have the training done. So I would just support this recommendation and hope that the board would pass it.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Ms. Snyder?
You said it would be available to the public if they needed it, or how would that, the wording
If you
was
have
weird.
somebody that drops on your sidewalk and you think they're having an opioid overdose, I would hope our nurse is going to run out there and help them out.
Yeah, it's not.
Many times the
Come
first
to the city schools
responders,
if you think you're having an overdose. I guess, yeah, the wording of it was a little bit weird, how it's open to the public. So I see what you're saying. If there's a situation that would occur on school campuses, is what you're saying?
certainly.
Okay.
Ms. Carter?
Now I think the school system sees so much that's going on. We just have to remember it's a smaller community within a community, and you just hope this never happens, but you always want to have this available just in case. And even just the number of students who are presenting with more and more significant health issues. We just have to look at this now. It's a different day.
Okay, so this is for action at our next meeting. Guess if is there willingness to put it on the consent agenda? And again, as always, if there's questions, feel free to forward those during, in the meantime, and if you feel there's a need for additional discussion, it can get pulled, at any time from the consent agenda. Ms. Morrison.
Are we putting the entire, all the changes on the consent agenda, because we've not gotten to the medication, the change in forms for giving students medications? Is that all part of the same?
Yes, ma'am. It is all one agenda item. It's really just taking 7-53 and bringing it into the new VSBA structure.
Okay. For some reason, when I reviewed this policy, I saw that we were taking away the requirement for a physician's signature for over-the-counter medication for students at schools. Did I read that wrong?
I'll have to get with folks and get back to you.
For over-the-counter.
Right.
Okay.
It's on page 57 and 58 and 59. There are lines through them, and I was just wondering why we were taking.
Okay, so the way it reads now is employees of Lynchburg City School Board may give non-prescription medication to students only with the written permission of the parent or guardian.
Right, but prior to this, it required the signature of a physician, and I was wondering why the change.
I can't answer that specifically, but to say if I need my child to take Motrin because they twisted their ankle, I don't know that that requires a doctor's note for that. I'll look into it and get back to you.
It did in the past because I've delivered those papers to the school. And so I was just wondering the reason for the change.
From a parent's perspective, I'll offer that it's a much simpler.
All right.
Okay.
We'll look into it and get
Okay.
back to you.
Thank you. Move now to H2, Capital Improvement Plan for Paul Laurence Dunbar Middle School for Innovation. This is for information this evening and then action at our next meeting. Mr. Copeland?
Yes, sir. We have $125,000 set aside in the capital improvement plan for the replacement of the gym floor at Dunbar. It has reached the end of its life cycle. We can no longer sand and replace the finish on that. The wood's only so thick, and you take off a certain amount every time you sand it, and we suspect that within the next sanding or two, we will actually start hitting the nails that hold the floor together. So we set the money aside. We put out bids. We got the 4 bids. They're contained in the agenda item, and we recommend Southern Flooring. Southern Flooring is the same company that installed the new gym floor at Heritage High School, so we're confident in their ability to do the job correctly and to our satisfaction. So this would be work that we would schedule at Dunbar Middle School over the summer of 2018. So it's a complete floor replacement, repainting and restriping everything, and reapplying the heavy varnish on it.
Very grateful, to say the least, and don't want to sound ungrateful, but what about those wooden backboards at Dunbar? They just throwing it out there. I know we have a list and priorities, but I just haven't seen many still in existence. But I know we do have other priorities, so I'm grateful about the wood first, but I just couldn't let that pass without saying that those wood backboards have passed their day as well. But thank you for the...
Mr. Polly, I do appreciate you bringing that to my attention, because I look at the floor when I walk in or the new windows and I haven't noticed the wooden backboards. So we will take a very hard look at that with a little bit of extra money. I'll see what we can do.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Snyder?
So, help me to understand, because I don't understand the bidding process and everything. So their bid came in lowest at $64,500. Then there's the $6 unit price. So there's an additional cost over the $64,000.
So the unit price, these floors are kind of floating floors.
Okay.
They don't sit flat on concrete. They sit on a set of runners. So if this is a very old building, this is a very old floor, we're not sure what we're going to find underneath it. So we need to have a price per square foot to replace the substructure that might be underneath it.
Okay.
So within the bid, there are, I think it's either 400 or 600 square feet worth of subfloor work that they will give us. And if there's anything above that amount, then this is the dollar rate for that.
Okay. So you're definitely going to come in under your 125 and
Yes,
you'll
ma'am.
have you're so good at that. Thank you.
For the benefit of the board and the lateness in which we are bringing this, if you don't have any significant concern, I would ask that you approve this tonight. And the nature of the way that we do CIPs, when you approve the dollar amounts for the CIP, you're really approving the work at that point. We bring it back to you to let you know what the final bids are going to be. So if you would be willing to approve it tonight, we could give the contractor the notice to proceed, and they can start making plans and getting the floor ordered and things like that. There are some significant lead times.
Mr. Chair, I'm
Move to approve?
I gotta think about it.
Okay, think about it.
Backboards,
Anybody else want a
backboards.
second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion, Mr. Polly? Okay. Seriously, are there any additional comments? Okay. All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay.
Thank you very much.
We move to H3, the Special Education Annual Plan, Part B, Section 611 Flow-Through Application, and Section 619 Preschool Grant Applications for 2018-19. That rolls right off the tongue. This is Dr. McLean.
Yes, call up Mr. Vanderwerker, share the overview of this annual special education plan and grant.
Dr. Nellis, board members, Dr. Massey, we did a good job getting all those different things in one sentence, didn't we, Dr. Nellis? This is an annual event. As you recall, the special education annual plan is brought to you for an initial reading while it is out for public comment. And your annual plan, including the 619 funding grant application, is based on the amount of money that we currently receive. Okay, we don't have a exact number for the upcoming school year because the federal government's not at that point where they're ready to tell us what that amount is. But we have to meet the timeline requirements, and we want to give the public an opportunity to comment. And we are prepared to get that notice out immediately following your board meeting tomorrow morning to let the public comment. I would like to draw your attention to two things. Number one, the reason the Special Education Advisory Committee is not here tonight is that they are heavy into conducting subcommittee meetings last night and tonight in preparation for what they're going to be requesting of our new superintendent, an opportunity to come back and present their recommendations for the next school year. And they would also like to follow up on your previous request to have them come back and give you an update on the recommendations that they gave you a year ago. So they are right now at Lincoln Middle School working very hard with your two other special education administrators. And it's pretty exciting to see what they're doing. The second thing I'd like to draw your attention to is you will see over the course of coming years, as well as most recently here in Central Virginia, where preschool programs for children with disabilities are now being created in inclusive environments. And I'm proud to tell you that Lynchburg, okay, you've been doing that for over 5 years. And the U.S. Department of Education initially came out with a communication to the Virginia Department of Ed, as well as all the other states, and said that we want you to move towards building those inclusive environments. And that continued for about 2 years until the U.S. Department of Ed came out with a mandate and said, if you haven't created them, do so. But so your advisory committee and you all, if you recall, you gave us permission to do that over 5 years ago, and it continues to remain strong. So that's where those funding, that's where that funding under 619 is committed. Dr. Nellis, board? Thank you. We'll come back to you at the next meeting.
Look forward to it. Thanks. And we move to H4, School Culture Survey results. Dr. McLean?
Yes. So it's also an annual event for us to conduct the School Culture Survey. And so Ms. Reeves is going to come up and share what the results of that survey were.
Dr. Nellis and school board members, good evening. Tonight I will give you an overview of the division level school culture and climate results for fall 2017. I would like to thank all employees, students, parents, and guardians who participated in the survey. It is through this collection of data that we have a better understanding of our stakeholders' perceptions of our school division. A huge thank you to Scott Kirkwood and to Daisha Womack, who also worked alongside me this year to load surveys and compile the data. The survey questions remain the same as those last year, and we continue to have 4 surveys. The one for the schools, for the high school students, one for parents and guardians, one for the elementary and middle schools, and one for high school. I'm sorry, one for employees, I think is what I meant to say there. The length of the surveys did not exceed the 35 questions. Survey categories range from academic expectations, safety and respect, to those topics that include bullying. The next 5 slides show the 3 highest percentages of those who agree and strongly agree with the statement, followed by the lowest 3 percentages. Keeping in mind some of the questions raised last year, we also looked at what we will call a net agree. This number is in parentheses, and it's actually the number received when we took the strongly disagree and disagree percentages and subtracted them from the strongly agree and agree. So that number is in parentheses there. Also of note, the elementary school student responses are for fifth grade students only. While I won't go through each particular statement, I will point out, if we're looking at, for instance, on the elementary school responses, there we go. While you see in the first statement, my parents care about my education, and 98% of the respondents strongly agreed or agreed, you see the net agree, what we call the net agree, at 97.7%. You see a very small discrepancy there. If you're looking at students treat teachers with respect at my school, you'll see 37% strongly agreed or agreed. And that net agree, again, subtracting those who strongly disagreed or disagreed, you see that as 13. If we were to look at the selected high school responses, just in case there are questions about the negative numbers in the parentheses, what that means is that there were higher numbers of respondents who selected strongly disagree or disagree. And you see that negative response there, or negative net agree. We continue to use this data as seen in the next 5 slides, and we share this in our LCS comprehensive plan. You will see that in most of the statements, there was a change of 3% or less. I'm sorry, the graphs. So again, in most of the statements, you will see that there was a change of 3% or less in response rates from last year until this year. At the middle school level, there is a notable decrease in the middle school student responses around school safety. Yet at the high school level, this number increased by 3%. And I will state here that in compiling the data, analyzing the data, we are having conversations. I know I'm working very closely with LaTanya Brown as Director of Student Services to really talk about what she's seeing with regard to the discipline forums and information that she has that's related to the discipline. So we are having those discussions both internally and with our school principals. Of note, there has been a 13% increase in high school students responding to the statement that if additional help is needed, they can get it during the school day. Parent responses, 9%. More of our parent responses indicate that teachers are communicating with them about their child's progress. And you will see on that last graph with regard to the statement, a positive feeling is present in our school, there was a 1% increase from last year till this year. That's in the, yes. So you might ask, what continue to be the themes? What are the recurring themes? This year we saw that a variety of instructional strategies are used in the classroom. Respect for others is an area that we will continue to explore. We're continuing to work with students and our teachers with regard to what respect is and how that differs in different settings and different cultures. Student behavior and classroom management strategies are a concern, and we continue to encourage family engagement and parental support. As next steps, we are working with the principals to provide support as requested. Many of them are reaching out and just having us go over the data with them to talk about ways in which they can improve or talk about ways in which they can continue to do the things that are working. We will share this data with Dr. Edwards so that she is aware of the perceptions of all stakeholders. This data is also used as part of the school improvement process where we have equity advocates and school team members looking through the data. We want to celebrate our positive aspects while continuing to provide professional development in any deficit areas. One of the things that we were looking at as we looked at how this information is shared across other divisions, other school divisions, sometimes this information is included on the website, and so we'll look for ways that we can communicate the division level results to our stakeholders. Are there any questions?
Dr. Coleman?
Thank you, Ethel, for all of the work and those who are involved in this. This is about the fourth time, I believe, maybe more, of looking at these results. And Dr. McLean has helped me in past years of having an appreciation for the correlation between this student achievement and what we're trying to do to get where we need to go. Just want to make sure I'm assessing this correctly. It appears to me that at the elementary and middle school levels, the results seem to be trending downward, and at the high school level, it is trending up. Am I reading that correctly?
Specific to, just look here. So when you look at the expectations of students being successful, and you're lumping elementary and middle together, is that correct?
No, I'm just looking at I'm not sure what page it is, but it says school culture increased the percentage of students with feelings of strong school culture for elementary school students?
Yes. So when you look at the first,
those seem to be trending down, and then the one for middle school students seem to be trending down, and the high school students' numbers seem to be going up.
Right. If you're looking at it in a very general way, yes.
Okay.
And again, that's specific statements that we're using in our comprehensive plan for those particular statements, yes.
Ms. Carter?
It seems like, and it was like this before, if my memory serves me correctly, that parents feel that their child respects his or her teacher, whereas the students feel that that's not happening. And even so, this time, it seems like we're going into the negatives. And even with, and on an additional vein, that students are now feeling as though -17, and the people are more, students are treated fairly. So it's a -17 if you look at it, the net. By other students, even if they look differently or act differently. But the larger question is, what do we do with these surveys? How are we using this to change these statistics for the next time?
At the division level, we are having the conversations around what respect looks like. And again, I'm working closely with LaTanya Brown, because many times the respect issues will manifest, or lack of respect issues will manifest in a discipline issue. So we're working closely to really have conversations around what respect is. I know she's looking at the referrals and talking about defiance versus respect, and it is something that we have talked about over the last few years. And, you know, quite frankly, it is having conversations around what respect looks like for each student. Having conversations, helping teachers set clear expectations in the classroom. If the expectation is that class starts and you're in your seat, if there's no talking, or if there's a zero noise level in the hallway, those have to be established first, and then students have to be held accountable to those things. And so we talk a lot about classroom management and how the behavior rolls out. I will share with you that at the school levels, when the schools get their data, we are having conversations specifically around those things that they're seeing in their buildings. And so we have, I work with the counselors to also help them help the schools do character education lessons and to do small group guidance lessons, so that children will understand better what respect looks like. I will also share with you that, and I didn't bring the actual survey with me, but some of this is, so as a parent, I know that my child is not disrespectful. So I'm going to check, my child is respectful. My child respects his or her teachers. I haven't gotten any phone calls that say otherwise. I am going to give that a high rating. Children are saying, I respect my teachers. But then there's that question that says, are other students, and it doesn't say other, but it says in general, students respect teachers. And that's when they somewhat point their finger and say, I see other people who are not respecting students and teachers. So we are going into the schools and having conversations with students about being leaders. We have even today challenged 2 young ladies who thought they were bullies in being leaders. And they appreciate it. We saw tears. We know that our students' needs are great. And sometimes they just want that person to show them the way. Yes.
So is it possible for us to change that question and ask, am I respectful to teacher? Am I, to change that question? So instead of pointing to another person, you have to look at yourself.
That is possible. To give you a historical perspective, the questions were, the word scrutinized is not the correct word, but we received a lot of help from our equity consortium. When we signed the voluntary resolution agreement, there is a report that is sent to them to show that we are complying with what is in that voluntary resolution agreement. And so they give us assistance with regard to the questions that we can ask. Now, we can also change some things and let them know this type of feedback that will help us to continue to get better.
Dr. Santa?
Thank you for this. It's really nice to see this ongoing research. I think one thing that would help us put this into better perspective, particularly with the histogram charts, is the percentage who answered neutral. And I say that because, for example, looking at middle school students, only 54% indicated they feel safe inside their school. So right away, you know, doing the math, you want to conclude that 46% think they're not safe. But I'm hopeful that a large chunk of that 46% were neutral on it, meaning they don't feel, you know, I don't know what neutral means. And moving forward, I would recommend that you don't allow a neutral response, that they have to choose a side. You lose some year-to-year comparison if you do that, but I think you'll get better data. But particularly for questions like that, I think the percent neutral would, and I think you kind of get at that with your net, positive versus, or agree versus disagree, because it factors out those neutrals, so I like that addition. So I would like something similar with these charts.
Sure. Thank you.
Ms. Morrison?
One of the first things that I did when we joined the school board in 2016 was to vote on a discipline policy, a new discipline policy, with lots of changes to what had been in place. And I'm wondering the impact of those policy changes, of the discipline policy that we put into place. Has that impacted what's happening in the school, the teachers' perceptions of what's happening, the students' understanding of those rules? We've learned from going to VSBA that if we're not seeing results, then we need to look at policies. And I think that was a major policy, and we have not received an update on that in a while. And I think that how many, are we seeing more referrals regarding respect or lack of respect or not following class rules or that kind of information? Are the rules clear? And I think we as a board owe that to our community to look at that policy and see, is that impacting the school culture?
Thank you. I'll definitely work on that and get back with you on it. Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Oh, yes. Well, she already answered my first question about were the same questions asked annually. And the second one was just, are there any reoccurring themes or categories that stand out from year to year? I know if the questions change, we might not be able to catch them, but just from your standpoint, just looking at the data, are there any concerns or themes that really just grab your attention or stand out as far as what you see?
Respect is huge. It's going to take a great deal of effort to really get at what respect is and helping adults and children, and I say that educators and parents, have conversations about what respect looks like. I think, and LaTanya and I talk about this quite a bit and she comes to me and again, we probably talk every day about what did you mean when the referral said you were disrespectful? It's what is the action? And I will use more of an adult example of going into someone's home. If my expectation is that when you come into my home that you take your shoes off, and you walk into my home and you don't take your shoes off, or have you disrespected me, or have I not informed you that that's what I expect in my home? And the same is true with regard to classroom management and the expectations. And so sometimes before the practice is before the referral is written, have the discussion. Let's talk about what occurred in that classroom. Let's involve the counselor. Let's talk about the misunderstanding that may have taken place. And then if there wasn't a misunderstanding, then yes, let's apply the appropriate discipline. But there has to be, that's what continues to rise to the top, is respect as related to those everyday interactions, as well as those things that affect classroom management and behavior.
Okay, so currently on a referral or some type of disciplinary action, there's a category that they can just say disrespectful, or is that pretty much how it's being reported and no explanation or really no details around it? Then you have to kind of go back and fill in the details, try to picture what that situation might have looked like.
I'm going to ask LaTanya to speak to that. That's her lane of expertise.
On the referrals, it is a category for disrespect, and we have asked for their teachers and administrative to give clear language and to define what the action was, so we could have clarity when we talk to the student and investigate the incident. So I can say, since the new policies have been ruled out, we look at language in the referrals that the teacher use and administrators use to help guide us in the conversations as we're doing trainings. So I can say within the referrals, we're asking for them to define the actual action of the disrespect or the disruption.
Okay, thank
so
you.
that we can better facilitate conversations and conduct better trainings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Snyder?
The glaring thing that I'm taking away from this, the one thing that's just jumping out at me, is the middle school students, and that 46% of them do not feel safe. I had a conversation with my son's teacher recently, and she said, addressing some of his issues, she said, if a kid does not feel safe, they cannot learn. So what are we taking away from that? And safe is kind of like respect. What are you feeling unsafe about? If we have 46% of kids that are feeling that way, we have a large percentage of kids that can't adequately learn or retain information, are feeling uncomfortable where they're supposed to feel comfortable and safe. So, I mean, I hear, Ms. Reeves is saying we're talking with staff and with counselors, but are we talking to the kids? We have this glaring answer from them. It's addressing kind of what the student that spoke to us tonight. They want to tell us what's going on. So this right here to me screams, let's sit down and let's have a school-wide conversation. Why don't you feel safe? What can we do to address that? And let's make that better. Right. This is the one thing, so I'll let you
There are conversations with students. I would say to you, without going into a lot of detail, that there are many factors that affect why they feel that way. And some of them are not related to what's happening specifically inside the school.
Mm-hmm. And I can also add to that, during the discipline forums, I go out to all 19 schools, and we've just begun doing that. One of the questions is about safety, and asking the students, do they feel safe in their school? And if not, why? And then also for them to give us some recommendations. If there are any immediate safety concerns, I meet right then and there with the principal, and then I update Mr. Copeland to follow up with the concerns that the students might have that might be emergencies or outliers at that point. So in terms of, are the students given a voice with that? Yes, they've been given a voice through the discipline forums and also through principal's cabinet. Those questions come up through principal's cabinets. So we do compile that information, and we are making our superintendents aware of the concerns as well as we're going through the process of the forums.
I have a follow-up with that, if that's okay. Is there a way, I know a lot of times those cabinets and the forums and things like that, those are select students, those are not all of the students. Is there a way to do a follow-up survey to this survey specifically to troublesome areas, you know, and if, a lot of times they're unwilling to talk or to tell what necessarily might be going on. If we gave them an outlet, here's a list of 30 things that you may feel unsafe about, can we narrow it down a little bit? Just giving them every opportunity, and not just for the select students that might be in the forums or in the cabinet meetings.
Yes, it's possible. We can do a follow-up survey. That is possible. So yes, we could do a follow-up survey.
Ms. Morrison?
I have 2 points. The first one being that we review a lot of discipline records since the school board when we're holding student discipline meeting, and a common topic or theme that I read when looking at discipline is the issue of bullying. And I also think that that's a reason a number of students don't feel safe in their school, because they feel that that issue of bullying going on, or they're seeing others, or they're feeling and they're reacting. So I feel that that's an issue that we as a board and administrators in school need to look more into what we're doing and how we can be proactive. The second is a bigger picture, and Dr. McLean, this may be your area, that this information is provided to individual schools. So each elementary school, each middle school, and each high school will get their information. And the correlation between how these students and parents and faculty members are feeling as reported in the school climate survey and SOL results. Have we looked at that information to see if the school climate, if teachers and students and parents are feeling this way, and we're getting that information, and then we're looking at whether or not SOL scores or academic performance, if that is in the same area, then to me that would be a correlation. Is that happening? Are we looking at that information? Is it being interactive? Because we need, I hope we are.
I would say, I mean, the school administrators have that data to look at and review themselves. A tricky piece is you have tens to hundreds of different factors that could be the correlation. But if you do zoom out to more national studies, for example, the question that has the highest correlation when asked of staff to student achievement is basically the atmosphere within the school. And there's different ways of asking that.
Right.
And there have been. So sometimes we need to rely on those broader studies where they can then tease out and control for all the different variables. And that is one that's strong. I think to Ms. Snyder's point, you're going to expect to see if students aren't feeling very safe and secure in their school, that their learning is probably not going to be as strong. But we need to watch that and see. So I think there's an eye to it. It's hard to come away with a clear correlation when there are other factors at play, but it's something we'll continue to look at.
Ms. Carter?
I'm just glad that you all are asking for action, just exactly what the action is, because respect looks different to different people. And a lot of times it's very subjective. What is respect or what is disrespect? And the other thing is just what Susan was saying, the bullying. I just hear, and just so many kids that feel like they're being bullied, and that they're bullied in the hallways when other people are seeing them and watching, and teachers are seeing them, and no one says anything to the person that's doing the bullying, and they're just, so what's out there for those students? What can they do? And even when they go to the principal, that's, it's one side of the story, nothing is really done.
That's another area
but that's,
that
like
we
I said,
are,
that's one perspective. I know there.
Right, that we are working on. At our very last principals meeting, we did go over bullying, and from an educational standpoint, we recognize that we have to do a better job of informing people of what bullying is. There is still some name calling. That's just name calling. So we have done, we've provided the principals with information around the definition of bullying, not that they didn't know it before, but as a tool to help parents who are, and families who are using the word, because it has become much of a buzzword. So we want to make sure that they understand that it's a repeated offense, that display of
power, that kind of thing, so that they understand what bullying truly is. We also want to equip our principals and our teachers with the strategies to have conversations around bullying and what that looks like. So we're working with our principals currently, as well as the counselors, to help really define the language and to get rid of the buzz, but to provide some strategies there. I will also say that we're working with our students to also, as I stated earlier, really talk about the effects of bullying and what that looks like, how that makes them feel. And our counselors are working in small groups to help some of our students.
Dr. Coleman?
Love is the answer to all of this, I know. I want to say a statement about this bullying piece. I didn't know that my son, who has already graduated from Heritage High School, suffered from bullying because he wouldn't tell me while he was going through it. And I had an opportunity to do a session with him in Tidewater where he brought this out to a group of people. He even had used Facebook to share that, and nothing was done about it, and he didn't want to tell his daddy or his mother what he was experiencing at the school. So that is real, and sometimes parents aren't even aware of what's happening to their kids. To that end, I want to know, how many hours do we invest in pulling this survey together and conducting the survey, tallying the results to give to us? You may not know the answer, and I don't even really want you to answer the question. But if, in fact, this is being done year after year, again, I'm not satisfied with the responses that I'm getting to these questions, which would not be fair to put that just on the two of you. I've even begun to think about, Mr. Copeland shared to us, I believe, in one discipline meeting about the portal-to-portal dynamic. So when we start talking about culture, do we have any way of finding out how our kids experiencing their movement from their residence, on the bus, all of those other pieces to culture that may have impact on what's happening to a kid when they actually get in the classroom? Just concerned about that, and I would implore us to please find a way. If you are putting in all these hours and doing the great work that you need the help, the support, and we need to be able to show the correlation. Otherwise, in my mind, there is no need to do this, and we can just rely, as Dr. McLean said, on the more national dynamics that we can pull from. Because this is the fourth time that I've seen these results and so forth. And again, elementary and middle are trending down. It's not a drastic drop, but it's a drop. And then the high school is going up. But some of the things that are happening in our high schools, I just don't even know if I would want to be a high school student now with all of the dynamics. And I do not see how we're going to be able to really improve the scores until we can deal with some of these atmospheric conditions that are going on within our schools.
Mr. Pollard?
And just on with all the comments that we made, and I don't want to seem like we don't want to play our part as a board. So kind of like Dr. Coleman asked Principal Beatty earlier, how can this board help you with these issues? What are some things that we can do to help you guys? Because as he said, coming before us, we see the problems, but how can we help you guys? Like, what are some things that we can do just to get to the root? And if you don't have all that right now, I understand. But I would just really like to sincerely think of some things that we can do on the policy side or whatever that we can help offset some of these drastic statistics.
If you would allow for my office to think about that and respond, I would love to share just some of the things that may help us.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That brings us to Superintendent's comments. Dr. Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wendy tells me that Sherry Steele from Bedford Hills Elementary School presented the board with some gifts that you'll find at your place. She's a little tardy on her school board appreciation, so she's, I think she's made a good recovery here. So thanks to her for that. Just a couple of things I want to mention to you. In regard to the national event of March 14, 2008, I'd like to make a few comments. We offer our deepest sympathy to the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School community for their grievous loss. And EC Glass sent some stickers here for the board. If you'll take one, I put one on my lapel. It's the logo of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. I'd like to present those to you. We're working with our students, principals, and school staff to determine how the schools will support the students in this initiative, where the schools are preparing to support the students' rights to free expression and peaceful assembly within limitations of ensuring security and safety. Here are some things our schools are doing alongside their student council groups on or before March 14. Students are writing letters to elected officials. Teachers and administrators are discussing the event and its meaning. The schools are encouraging staff and students to wear maroon and gray, the school colors of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Students are posting encouraging notes of support around their buildings, and students are creating cards, banners, and other messages for students to sign and share with Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. I'd like to point out that Mr. Ben Copeland and I met on March the 2nd with the Lynchburg City Police Department Chief Raul Diaz and his staff to discuss the March 14 event and to plan for a LPD presence at each school. As you know, non-disruptive events are permissible in our schools, and we will not punish non-disruptive actions. Given the special circumstances of this nationwide event, we will impose only narrow restrictions on student expression. But of course, students and staff must obey school policies at all times. I need to point out that students have the option not to participate if they so choose. We are providing alternatives. Finally, we want to make this event a teachable moment regarding student involvement and not a disciplinary event. Would like a special announcement that Ethel Reeves presented to us. Lynchburg City Schools, Lynchburg Parks and Recreation Department, and the Lynchburg Police Department are partnering together again this year to sponsor March Madness. This will be right up Mr. Polly's alley. I want you to put breakaway goals on those new backboards you're going to put up so Mr. Polly can dunk down there. March Madness is a weekly basketball tournament for teens aged to engage them through the popular midnight basketball model. The program goals are to create a safe atmosphere for friendly competition, to provide an outlet for physical well-being with active play, and to demonstrate support for teens for public safety. The event kicked off on Friday, March the 22nd at 8 p.m. and it will continue. It kicked off on Friday, March the 2nd at 8 p.m. and will continue every Friday in March from 8 p.m. until midnight. So please come out and support our students. All right, I'm required to make the following announcement in regard to denied accreditation schools in Lynchburg. On February the 15th, Bev Rabel, along with her colleagues from the Virginia Department of Education, visited Lynchburg to meet with central office staff and the principals of schools that are denied accreditation or reconstituted. A work session was held in the morning with the Virginia Department of Education and Lynchburg City School staff reviewing lesson plans developed by LCS teachers, and feedback on the lesson plans and observations were provided by the principals. The goal of this session was to deepen the work identified in the essential actions of the corrective action plan for each school. The second half of the day, principals provided Ms. Rabel with an update on 2 strategies being implemented this year where evidence or data suggests are being successful, and 2 areas where the evidence suggests needs improvement. On February the 21st, Mrs. Hendricks, principal of William Marvin Bass Elementary School, and Mr. Mike Rudder, director for school improvement and grants, attended technical assistance training provided by the Office of School Improvement at the Virginia Department of Education. The training served to deepen and strengthen the work that Bass has already begun relative to the development and implementation of an annual school improvement plan. For 2018-2019, all schools will be required by the Virginia Department of Education to develop and implement a school improvement plan using a model and template provided by the state. All Lynchburg City schools are implementing a school improvement plan that includes most, if not all, of the Virginia Department of Education requirements for 2018-2019. We are holding a welcome event for the new superintendent on Thursday, April the 26th from 4 to 6 p.m. at Heritage High School. Cynthia Babb will be sharing the details, more details soon. It will be open to all faculty, staff, students, parents, and the community. And before I forget it, I would like to thank the Lynchburg Police Department. Not only just because we met with them recently, but it's incredible how much support we get from our Lynchburg Police Department. I've been a school superintendent in lots of school divisions across the Commonwealth for a lot of years, and I've never seen a police department that was more closely engaged and cares any more about a school division than Lynchburg Police Department does. So I'd just like to say thanks to Chief Raul Diaz and his great people. Our SROs are magnificent, and we just depend on those folks every day. And I just would be remiss if I didn't make mention of that. A couple other things. Sunday, March the 25th at 6 p.m., Mayor Joan Foster will be having a function for the school board and city council at her home. And the Breakfast with the Superintendent event will be this coming Thursday, March the 8th at 7:30 a.m. at Lynchburg College. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Board member comments. Dr. Coleman?
I want to go back for just a second and clap for our Lynchburg Police Department, because I think that is. I also want to thank School Board Member Katie Snyder, as it was mentioned by the student rep from Heritage, but that was a vision that came out of her heart, and I just thought it was incredible to do that. There are several upcoming events that are going on in the community. April 3rd, during the spring break, I believe, there will be a major program to remember Martin King and a call to unity in the community. You'll be hearing more about that. And going to be talking to persons, and hope that you're going to come to the April the 23rd Southern Region Spring Networking Forum in Chase City, Virginia, because it's going to be powerful. And I know that the chair will make other statements, but I want to thank Dr. Larry Massey for his second visit with us. I have learned from you, sir, and I'm appreciative of your labor of love for our kids.
A handful of us got to go to the Empowerment Academy graduation back on February 7th, and it was a great moment to watch the students there that had put forth the time and committed to graduating and getting their diplomas, and it was a great night to watch. And then I did want to mention, the rep from Heritage had mentioned it, but the second Samuel cast is leaving for Alabama at 4 o'clock in the morning to present their play. And the cost of the trip was well over $20,000, but they were able to fundraise or get donations for every single penny of it. So no student had to feel a financial burden, down to the fact that they even have money to give them a little bit every day for meals. So really they only had to cover just a little bit of food to go to that, and it's a wonderful opportunity to get out there and show their talents and represent Lynchburg City. And Dr. Massey, thank you for your time here. It was wonderful to see the type of leadership that you brought to us, and just to get different visions of how people lead, and I really appreciated your time here, and we're going to miss you.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Mason.
I just want to also say thank you to Dr. Massey for your service here. I know that this role isn't easy for a person that's here on a permanent basis. For you to come as an interim and step up to the plate, I'm really appreciative, and I too am going to miss you very much.
Ms. Morrison.
I had the opportunity to attend a presentation at Darrington Elementary School last week. It was called A Living Museum, and the fifth graders researched famous African-American Virginians, and they not only researched it, but they wrote the part and they presented themselves as these heroes. And Leland Melvin was there, and Rashad Jennings, and Arthur Ashe, Edna Lewis, Gabby Douglas, and these are they did an outstanding job. And I was also really impressed with the students in the audience, how much they enjoyed it and how respectful they were during these presentations. But these students were outstanding, and I was very proud of them. And from an old-timer to another old-timer, thank you so much for your wisdom and your support and your encouragement for what we do. We will miss you, but we certainly appreciate all that you've done. Thank you.
Ms. Carter.
I would just like to say the two videos that Heritage High School has shown lately have been really powerful, and hopefully they will submit them for the Virginia VSB video contest. And Dr. Massey, it was a privilege to work with you, and just for all that you did. And when you came, we asked that you step in and really take charge and help us during this time, and you really did do that, and we're very appreciative for that. Thank you. And third time's a charm.
Okay, Mr. Polly.
I, of course, have been attending some basketball games here in the Lynchburg city, but this is particularly not about basketball. It was Glass took on Forest about 2 weeks ago, and there was some commotion at the end of the game. And I won't get into the negative part of it, but I did want to shine some light on Coach Roy Roberson. And in the middle of a very hostile environment, with a lot was going on right in his face, he chose not to respond back with hostility. He showed poise in class and represented the district very well. So I think he deserved every bit of public admiration for that, because that could have been a different picture on the front page of the News in Advance. And I'm very grateful that he chose to show restraint, and not only for himself and the Lynchburg community, but for the 12 guys that look to him as a role model. So just wanted to take the time and say hats off to Coach Roberson for his act of class and representing the district well. I also attended Glass's game it was Saturday for the playoffs. Unfortunately, that season came to an end, but just want to give a hats off to them. All the players played very hard, came together as a team for a fantastic season. So, and to you, Dr. Massey, very fortunate to have you come in when you did. Thank you for stepping up to the plate, and we'll surely miss you.
Yeah, I'll add my, well, board chair, I'm trying to wait till the end, but yeah, no, it's been a lot of work, and I appreciate your perspective and expertise and integrity, I think. There have been some hard decisions that have been made, and not a lot of time to make them within, so it's been a good experience. It's certainly good to have a different perspective or exposure to another superintendent, regardless. So appreciate it. Thank you for coming out of retirement for what, the fourth time? Fourth or fifth time. But and good luck. So thank you. Really, really appreciate it. Informational item. Our next board meeting is Tuesday, April 17th. At 5:30 here in the boardroom. We do need to convene a closed meeting following this one. So I need a motion to enter into, let me do, gotta be legal here. Pursuant to the Code of Virginia, Section 2.2, 3711A7, the school board needs to convene a closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following specific matters. Legal advice. Need a motion to enter into closed session. Second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, we're in closed session. Thank you. I think we're going to go upstairs.